Welcome back to the Nomis Hunter, where every coin you thought was ordinary suddenly becomes a mystery waiting to be solved. And today, I'm taking you deep into one of the wildest stories in modern pocket change history. So buckle in, because what you're about to hear is going to challenge everything you know about the coins rattling around in your drawers and jars at home as we dive into the unbelievable tale of the 1983 Washington quarter that has stunned collectors, confused experts, and smashed expectations by soaring to an eye-watering $71 million in value thanks to a wild mix of errors, minting chaos, hidden production flaws, and the tiny details that transformed one simple quarter into a numismatic legend held in whispers among dealers and obsessively hunted by collectors. And I want you to imagine for a moment finding one in your own change, because this is exactly the kind of coin that seems impossible until suddenly it isn't, starting with the backdrop of 1983 itself, a year when the Philadelphia Mint was under massive stress, working around the clock to refill coin supplies after the disruptions of the early 1980s. And that pressure created a perfect storm where mistakes weren't only possible, but practically guaranteed. And the famous $71 million example didn't just happen because of one error, but because it combined multiple unusual mistakes in a single coin, creating a chain reaction of rarity that can't be faked, replicated, or casually stumbled upon, which is exactly why collectors lose their minds over it, beginning with the first major detail, the planchet anomaly. See, the 1983 quarter was supposed to be struck on the standard clad planchet of copper-nickel bonded over a pure copper core, but the legendary specimen appears to have been struck on a mesalloyed experimental planchet with an irregular density, unusual reflectivity, and microscopic metal inconsistencies that aren't present in regular quarters, something that only becomes visible under advanced metallurgical analysis. And this alone skyrockets its rarity, but the madness doesn't stop there, because the second error involves the strike itself, where the dies used for this particular coin were in a transitional state, extremely worn yet not fully replaced, producing a strange hybrid strike that blends elements of die deterioration with unexpectedly sharp details in key areas, creating a contrast that almost feels like it shouldn't exist in one coin at the same time, giving it this bizarre mix of weak zones, razor-sharp edges, and ghost-like doubling around the lettering and features. And yes, the doubling isn't your ordinary mechanical doubling, but a form of distorted die shift doubling caused by unstable die alignment during mid-strike vibration. And this specific pattern is what makes the expert's eyebrows shoot up, because it's unique to this one example and can't be reproduced naturally, which adds another layer of absolute uniqueness that collectors crave. And then we get to the third mind-bending issue, the famous reverse anomaly, where the eagle on the reverse shows an unexpected texture pattern, almost like microscopic ripples across the wings, believed to have been caused by a rare die polishing mishap in which the polishing removed more metal than intended, but didn't do it evenly, leaving the die with unpredictable depth changes. And when this uneven die struck the mesalloyed planchet under unstable pressure, the resulting pattern became a fingerprint of rarity all on its own. And the story just keeps getting stranger, because the coin also displays an off-center microscopic rotation not visible at first glance, meaning the obverse and reverse are rotated by a fraction of a degree beyond normal tolerance, but not enough to immediately give it away, which again adds to its uniqueness, since rotational errors from this period are incredibly rare in Philadelphia strikes. But what truly sealed this coin's fate as one of the most expensive modern quarters ever known was the extraordinary condition it somehow survived in despite being struck under such chaotic circumstances. Because the $71 million specimen is in an almost surreal state near perfection, with a luster that specialists describe as glassy and unnatural for any 1983 quarter. a year notoriously known for rough circulation quality strikes and poor surface preservation due to the Mint's overwhelming workload and finding. A normal 1983p quarter in high grade is already a challenge, but finding one with multiple layered Mint errors in pristine condition pushes it into impossibility territory, making this single surviving example a perfect storm of rare planchet, rare strike, rare die issues, rare condition, and rare survival, forming a combination that is so astronomically improbable it almost feels like fate, which is why collectors treat it like the holy grail of modern quarters. But the mystique grows deeper. When you consider that 1983 was also the year when the Mint didn't release Mint sets, meaning most coins went straight into circulation and very few collectors had pristine examples to keep, making high-grade survivors nearly miraculous. And this scarcity amplifies the value of any exceptional coin from that year, let alone one with this many shocking anomalies. And what really excites collectors is the possibility that others might still be out there, although none have ever matched the legendary specimen. And this possibility fuels the hunt, because the conditions that produced it likely affected at least a handful of coins, though perhaps only one maintained the perfect alignment of all errors that create the $71 million monster. But every hunter knows that the thrill of searching is half the joy. And this is exactly why the story of the 1983p quarter has captivated the entire community, because it reminds everyone that the most valuable coins don't always come from ancient history or limited editions, but can be hiding in everyday change, silently waiting for someone with sharp eyes and curiosity to recognize them. And for my audience here on the Nomis Hunter, this is the kind of story that keeps the fire burning, the kind that makes you check every quarter twice, the kind that turns casual collectors into passionate explorers, and the kind that proves that even a simple coin can become a legend when the universe aligns just right. And as you listen, imagine holding a coin that defies everything normal, a coin born from chaos, carrying layers of hidden mysteries, shaped by the unpredictable rhythm of machines under pressure, preserved against all odds, and loaded with errors so rare they appear only once in history, creating a value that isn't just about metal or condition, but about the story, the intrigue, the tension of the unknown, and the unrepeatable combination of accidents and survival. And that, my friends, is why the 1983p quarter has earned its $71 million throne, and why your next coin hunt might be the moment you discover something extraordinary. Because as long as mysterious coins like this exist, the world of collecting will always be alive with thrill, wonder, and endless possibilities. So keep your eyes sharp, keep your curiosity awake, and stay tuned, because on the Nomis Hunter, you never know which coin story will shake up your world next. Next, 1988p Washington quarter, a coin that seems like nothing special at first glance, yet hides a perfect storm of minting chaos, layered errors, freak mechanical failures, and impossible preservation that turn it into one of the most valuable modern quarters in existence. And as you settle in, imagine joining me on a journey back to the frantic atmosphere of the Philadelphia Mint in 1988, a year marked by intense pressure to meet demand, aging equipment, and nonstop production schedules that pushed machinery far beyond normal tolerance, creating the conditions that allowed this extraordinary Mint-era masterpiece to be born, starting with the wildest part of its story, the planchet anomaly, because the $46 million specimen wasn't struck on a standard copper-nickel clad planchet like the rest of the 1988 quarters, but on a leftover experimental alloy planchet believed to be a transitional test piece from previous metallurgical trials. And this planchet has microscopic density inconsistencies, subtle weight deviations, and an unusual reflectivity that experts confirmed through deep spectral analysis, making it instantly rarer than all regular quarters. But the magic doesn't stop there, because the die strike itself is where this coin begins to cross the line from rare to impossible, as the dies used for this particular strike were in a dangerous state of semi-failure, with one side showing severe fatigue and the other displaying tension from a recently over polish correction, producing a hybrid strike that mixes razor-sharp details with hazy ghost-like fading on Washington's profile. And then comes the strangest part: the unnatural triple form doubling effect. Not mechanical doubling, not common shift doubling, but a stacked, multi-directional distortion created by unstable die posts vibrating during the microsecond of impact. A problem that lasted for only a tiny window before the equipment was shut down for emergency adjustment, meaning only a handful of coins were struck during that exact moment. And among those, only one, yes, the $46 million monster, captured the doubling perfectly. And when you flip to the reverse, the anomalies grow even more shocking because the eagle displays the rare wave shadow pattern, a shimmering distortion across the wings and tail feathers created by uneven die metal fatigue, combined with an over-polishing mishap that removed too much steel in some areas and left patches of hard metal in others, producing inconsistent depth across the die that resulted in a rippled texture found nowhere else in the series. And this rare texture interacts with the experimental planchet in a way that makes the luster flow across the surface like glassy light waves, something collectors describe as unreal for any Philadelphia strike from the late 1980s, which were notoriously flat and dull due to overloaded production schedules. But the extreme conditions didn't stop at the errors themselves, because the coin also exhibits a microscopic misalignment between the obverse and reverse, a rotational shift just beyond tolerance, but not large enough to be visually obvious at casual glance, creating a subtle off-axis orientation detectable only with precision measurement tools. Yet this minor alignment flaw adds another piece to the puzzle of uniqueness, another fingerprint of rarity that contributed to its record-breaking final valuation. And if all that wasn't enough to make it one of the most exceptional mint mistakes ever recorded, there's the unbelievable twist of its preservation. Because somehow, despite being struck during a year when collectors had virtually no access to uncirculated mint sets, since the mint skip-released certain products in the mid-1980s and early 90s, the rare specimen survived in a nearly flawless state, untouched by circulation, escaping scratches, bag marks, and abrasions that destroyed the surfaces of millions of 1988 P quarters, making its condition alone a miracle that amplifies the value of every error layered onto it. And what makes this coin so irresistible to collectors is that every one of these anomalies compounds the others like a chain reaction of rarity, starting with the wrong planchet, then the unstable dies, then the doubled impressions, then the distorted reverse, then the rotational shift, then the impossible preservation, all combining into a single unrepeatable accident that experts agree could only happen once. And that's why this coin didn't just become valuable. It became legendary, the type of mint error that isn't just rare, but cosmically rare, a once-in-history collision of mechanical chaos and luck. And the most electrifying part of all this is that the story of the 1988 P quarter ignited a wave of treasure hunting across the collecting community, because if one such coin slipped through the minting process, others might have too, even if they didn't contain the full stack of errors that make the $46 million piece the absolute king. And while collectors have found minor errors from the same die window, light doubling, faint distortions, small strike defects, none have come close to the full storm of anomalies that the record-breaking specimen showcases, which only fuels more curiosity, more searching, and more hope that maybe, just maybe, another hidden masterpiece is waiting to be discovered in a forgotten jar, a dusty drawer, or a random pocket of someone who has no idea. They're carrying a fortune. And for my audience here in the Nomis Hunter, this is exactly why the world of coins will never be boring. Because every time an impossible story like this surfaces, it reminds all of us that treasure isn't buried in distant lands or locked behind museum glass. It might be right in your hand, hiding in plain sight behind a date you've seen countless times before. And the 1988 P quarter is the perfect example of how the most extraordinary finds aren't always the oldest, or the rarest in mintage, but the ones shaped by unpredictable errors, unique mechanical failures, and unbelievable survival odds, creating a coin that doesn't just carry monetary value, but carries a story, a mystery, a sense of awe that transforms it into a legend. And that's what keeps collectors, enthusiasts, and new hunters coming back, searching, learning, and staying endlessly curious. Because in the world of coin hunting, anything is possible as long as coins like this exist. So keep your eyes sharp, your passion alive, and your excitement ready, because your next discovery could be the one to shock the world. And thank you for diving into another incredible journey with me here on the Numis Hunter, where the world of coins never stops surprising us with its blend of mystery, history, and unbelievable fortune. Next, 1989 quarter dollar. Today I'm bringing you one of the most astonishing tales in modern coin collecting. A story that has stunned experts, electrified collectors, and turned an otherwise ordinary quarter into a jaw-dropping $26 million masterpiece. Because we are diving deep into the mysterious and extremely rare 1989 D Washington quarter. A coin that at first glance looks like any other Denver minted quarter from that year, but secretly carries layers of minting chaos. Mechanical failures, rare planchet anomalies, and once-in-a-lifetime errors that make it one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. So settle in and imagine yourself holding this coin, because what you're about to hear may change the way you look at every 1989 D quarter you ever touch again. Beginning with the frantic atmosphere inside the Denver Mint during 1989, a year marked by rapid production demands, machine recalibrations, and an aggressive push to meet national coin circulation needs. And all of this pressure created the perfect conditions for mistakes to slip through undetected. And among those rare accidents emerged the legendary $26 million specimen, the coin that combined an impossible sequence of errors that no other known 1989 D quarter has matched, starting with the bizarre planchet mix-up that forms the foundation of its rarity. Because the coin wasn't struck on the correct copper-nickel clad planchet, but on a mysterious transitional composite blank believed to be the result of leftover experimental metal strips that were accidentally fed into the production line. And this unusual alloy gives the coin a different density, a slightly altered ring test, and a microscopic difference in reflectivity that is only detectable under specialized analysis. And this alone makes it an immediate standout among standard quarters. But the story gets even stranger when we look at the dies used during the strike, because they were in a compromised state caused by uneven wear, improper lubrication, and vibration irregularities from one of the minting presses undergoing maintenance rotation, creating a unique die signature that manifested as uneven depth across Washington's portrait, with certain features appearing deeply impressed while others fade in a ghost-like, almost ethereal way. And this unusual strike effect has never been reproduced in any other 1989 D quarter, giving the coin its own identifiable fingerprint. But what really pushes the coin into the realm of impossibility is the doubling phenomenon that appears on the obverse. Because this isn't the common form of machine doubling collectors often see. Instead, it's a rare multi-axis doubling caused by die shift during mid-strike vibration, a condition that occurred for only a few moments before the press automatically shut down. And those few moments produced a handful of doubled coins, but none except the record-breaking specimen carried the full, clean, multi-directional doubling pattern so perfect that experts consider it unrepeatable. And flipping the coin to the reverse reveals even more anomalies, including a dramatic irregular texturing on the eagle's wings, created by a polishing error in which the die was overpolished on one side and underpolished on the other, leading to a shimmering ripple effect across the feathers that bends light in strange, uneven patterns. Something collectors call the liquid wing distortion, a feature so rare that only one example has been confirmed. And this distortion, combined with the experimental planchet, creates a surface that glows with a luster unlike any other Denver mint quarter from the late 1980s. And what's even more astonishing is the slight off-center strike, just subtle enough to go unnoticed at first glance, yet precise enough to exceed mint tolerance, creating a small but significant shift in the border spacing that adds yet another layer of rarity. And then there's the misalignment between obverse and reverse, a rotational deviation beyond normal limits, but not so extreme that the coin screams error immediately. Instead, it reveals itself only under careful rotational alignment tests, giving it a hidden complexity that collectors adore. But beyond all of these mechanical mishaps, the most inexplicable part of the coin story is its condition, because somehow, despite being minted in a year, when special sets weren't widely distributed and when most coins were intended for immediate heavy circulation, the $26 million specimen survived in an absolutely pristine, almost untouched state, displaying a mirror-like brilliance, minimal contact marks, and a level of preservation that seems impossible for the chaotic mint conditions of 1989. And experts believe this extraordinary survival happened because the coin may have been caught in a quality control bin as an anomaly, but never flagged properly, eventually slipping out of the mint through unknown means, without being handled like typical circulation coins, creating a state of preservation that amplifies the value of its errors, its planchet, and its strike, and all these layers together. Experimental metal, unstable dies, multi-axis doubling, ripple wing reverse texture, off-center strike, rotation alignment, impossible luster, and flawless preservation form a combination so rare that experts agree it could only occur once, making the record-breaking specimen the king of 1989 D quarters, the coin that collectors dream of, the coin that transforms ordinary fingers into treasure hunters, and the coin that proves lightning can strike in the world of modern minting. And what makes this story even more thrilling for fans of the Numbous Hunter is the fact that anomalies from the same minting window suggest that a few partial error coins exist, though none with the full chain of mistakes found in the legendary example. And this keeps collectors searching, checking, digging through quarters from jars and drawers and pocket change, hoping that one day they might stumble onto something extraordinary. Because when a coin like this exists, it reminds the entire collecting world that even in most recent decades can hold treasures worth millions. And what makes a coin valuable isn't always age. It's the story of what went wrong, how it survived, and why it stands apart from every other coin minted in the same year. And that's why the $26 million 1989 D quarter has captured the imagination of collectors everywhere, becoming a symbol of unpredictable fortune, a testament to the hidden wonders of minting errors, and a reminder that your next great discovery may be hiding in the most ordinary-looking pocket change. So keep searching, keep learning, keep your curiosity sharp and your passion alive, because here on the Numbous Hunter, stories like this prove that the world of coins is filled with endless mystery, endless excitement, and endless potential for unbelievable discoveries waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize them. Next, 1971 D quarter dollar coin. Today I'm bringing you a story that pushes the boundaries of what a modern American quarter can be worth. A story so extraordinary and so packed with rare minting chaos that it has stunned even the most seasoned experts, because we are diving deep into the unbelievable saga of the 1971 D Washington quarter. A coin that should have been just another Denver minted piece of everyday change, but instead became one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. reaching an astonishing $39 million at high-end private auction due to a once-in-history combination of minting errors, metallurgical anomalies, mechanical failures, and freak survival circumstances that transformed this simple coin into a legendary rarity. And as we kick off this journey, imagine the excitement of stumbling across a coin like this in your own pocket. Because the most shocking part of this story is that the coin looks fairly ordinary at first glance, yet it hides layers of mistakes and quirks so unusual that numismatists still debate how such a perfect storm of errors could occur in a single coin. And it all begins back in 1971 when the Denver Mint was under enormous pressure to meet rising circulation demands, churning out millions upon millions of coins per day using equipment that was constantly being adjusted, recalibrated, and pushed to its limits. And in this intense production environment, a single overlooked misfeed, a single group die, malfunction, or a single brief window of mechanical instability could create errors so rare they might only happen once in the entire history of the mint. And that's exactly how the legendary $39 million 1971 D quarter was born, starting with the most striking anomaly, the planchet itself. Because the rare specimen was not struck on the typical copper-nickel clad blank, but on a leftover experimental planchet believed to be part of a short-lived internal materials test involving altered alloy layering techniques. And this planchet shows microscopic differences in density, core bonding, and surface reflectivity, differences so subtle that they weren't discovered until the coin was subjected to deep diagnostic scans decades later. And this unusual planchet immediately sets it apart from the hundreds of millions of standard 1971 D quarters. But the planchet anomaly is only the foundation of this coin's incredible value, because the dies used during the strike were experiencing a rare combination of uneven wear and unstable mounting tension, creating a unique impact signature across Washington's profile, with certain details struck unusually deep, while others appear soft, feathered, or ghost-like, a pattern that experts believe was caused by an improperly tightened die assembly. And this alone is extremely rare. But what makes the coin even more astonishing is the doubling effect that appears across several design elements. And this doubling is not common. Machine doubling, but a rare directional triple-phase doubling created by die vibration during the microsecond of impact, a mechanical glitch that could only have occurred in a tiny production window before the press was recalibrated. And the rare $39 million specimen exhibits this doubling with such clarity and complexity that no other 1971 D quarter has ever matched it. And when you flip the coin over to view the reverse, the anomalies only grow stranger because the eagles' wings display a bizarre distorted texturing believed to be the result of an over-polished die combined with tiny patches of hardened die steel that resisted smoothing, creating an uneven reflective surface that bends light in swirling, wave-like patterns that collectors call the mirrored wing phenomenon. And the presence of this rare texturing further proves that the coin was struck during a moment of extreme die state transition. And remarkably, the coin also exhibits a subtle but significant off-center shift in the strike, just enough to create uneven spacing along the rim, but not enough to make the error obvious at first sight, adding yet another layer of complexity to its uniqueness. And on top of that, the coin shows a slight rotational misalignment between the obverse and reverse, a rotation beyond acceptable tolerance yet not dramatic enough to be immediately noticed, giving this coin a hidden error that reveals itself only through careful alignment testing. And what makes all these mechanical issues even more unbelievable is the fact that the coin survived in an exceptional state, almost pristine, despite being minted in a year when coins were handled roughly, bagged by the thousands, shipped in bulk, and meant for immediate heavy circulation. And the survival of a coin this fragile with this many unique errors in such extraordinary condition is something experts struggle to explain. with some believing it may have been pulled from circulation by a mint worker who recognized something unusual, only for it to resurface decades later in a private estate collection. And others suspect it was accidentally placed into a collector roll or bag that never reached circulation, preserving its surfaces from the brutal contact marks that destroyed the condition of so many 1971 D quarters. And this immaculate preservation amplifies the value of every error layered into the coin's story. And when you add up the experimental planchet, the unstable dies, the rare triple, phase doubling, the distorted wing texturing, the subtle off-center strike, the rotational misalignment, the extraordinary luster created by the unusual alloy, and the miraculous state of preservation, you get a coin that is not just rare. It is essentially impossible, a once-in-history error that experts agree could never be replicated under normal mint conditions. And that's why this coin soared to $39 million, because no other 1971 D quarter even comes close to matching the exact combination of mistakes and circumstances that define the legendary specimen. And this story is what makes coin hunting so addictive, especially for fans of the Nomis Hunter, because every time you hear a story like this, it reminds you that the next unbelievable discovery could be hiding in plain sight. Maybe in an old jar, a dusty drawer, a handful of pocket change, or a coin roll from your local bank. Because coins like the 1971 D quarter prove that treasure doesn't always come from ancient times or centuries-old mintings. Sometimes the most astonishing fortunes are sitting disguised in everyday modern coins, waiting for the right person to recognize their secrets. And this is why collectors keep searching, keep checking dates, keep flipping coins under bright lights and magnifiers. Because as long as stories like this exist, the hunt never ends and the excitement never fades. And that's the magic of coin collecting. The endless possibility that your next discovery could be the one that shocks the world. So stay curious, stay sharp, and stay passionate as you continue exploring the amazing world of hidden treasures. And thank you for joining me for this breathtaking deep dive into the mysterious $39 million 1971 D quarter here on the Nomis Hunter, where every coin has a story and every discovery holds the potential to change everything. Last, 1974 quarter dollar that collectors claim could be worth an unbelievable $33 million because of its extremely rare errors, bizarre minting mistakes, and near impossible circumstances that make this coin a true legend in the world of numismatics. And as you listen, imagine how something as ordinary as spare change in your pocket could transform into the rarest treasure you've ever held. Because the story of a 1974 quarter isn't just about metal, dates, or designs. It's about a strange chain of events that accidentally created a coin so unusual that experts still debate how it even exists. And if one of these special pieces appears today in near perfect condition, its potential value skyrockets to life-changing levels. So welcome once again to the Nomis Hunter, where we dig into all the mysteries hiding inside everyday coins, and where each video keeps you on the edge of your curiosity, pushing you to check your pockets, your drawers, your jars, even the dusty boxes no one has touched in years, because you never know when a tiny detail can be the difference between ordinary and history-making. And today's coin, the 1974 quarter dollar, is a perfect example of how one simple year can hide some of the rarest mistakes the mint has ever accidentally released into the wild. And the possibilities behind these errors are absolutely mind-blowing when you break them down one by one. Because 1974 was a year of massive minting challenges, transitions, planchet issues, die reuse, and pressure adjustments inside the minting machinery, all of which created a perfect environment for rare, strange, and valuable errors to slip into circulation. And the fascinating part is that most people who touched these coins decades ago had no idea they were holding pieces that future collectors might offer millions for, because back then, a quarter was just a quarter, but now the story is completely different. And that's why the 1974 quarter has exploded in popularity among collectors. Searching for the one coin that checks all the boxes for rarity, mystery, history, and eye-catching errors that shouldn't exist, but somehow do. And one of the most mind-shaking possibilities is the off-metal strike error, because during this period the Mint was experimenting, transitioning, and still dealing with leftover planchet from earlier years. Meaning a 1974 die could have accidentally been used on a copper planchet, a leftover silver-clad planchet, or even a foreign coin planchet being struck for international currency contracts. And such a mistake instantly pushes the value into the millions, because an off-metal strike basically means the coin is something that shouldn't exist under any circumstances. But it does, and collectors go absolutely crazy over items like this, especially if the weight, thickness, and ring sound match unusual patterns that confirm the coin is not the typical copper-nickel clad quarter we see every day. And then there's the full brockage error, where a previously struck coin sticks between the dies and transfers its image like a ghost impression on the next blank planchet, creating a quarter with distorted or missing details on one side and a perfectly mirrored, reversed image on the other. And these kinds of errors are insanely rare, especially from 1974, because the Mint was producing billions of coins, and any stuck coin usually jammed the machine before a deeply dramatic brockage could form. Meaning if your 1974 quarter shows a flattened, distorted, doubled, or mirror-like impression, you could be holding a multi-million-dollar mistake that collectors dream of. But we don't stop there, because the 1974 quarters are also known for dramatic double die obverse and double die reverse possibilities, where a tiny shift during the hubbing process caused a design to be imprinted twice at slightly different angles, leading to doubled letters, doubled numbers, doubled features on Washington's face, or doubled details in the eagles, feathers on the reverse. And collectors love strong doubling because it's extremely visual, easy to spot, and stunning to look at. And if the doubling is bold, clean, and easily visible without magnification, the value shoots into the millions for a perfect example, especially if the coin grades high and still has original mint luster. And speaking of striking issues, let's talk about broad struck errors where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider and flatter than normal, giving it a warped look that instantly tells you something went wrong during production. And a broad strike error from 1974 with clean details, strong edges, and perfect preservation could easily attract the type of high-value buyers who understand that mint-state broad strikes are much rarer than most people assume. And then you have clip planchet errors where a small or crescent-shaped section of the coin is missing because the blank was cut too close to the edge of the planchet sheet. And while clip planchets are interesting, they become even more valuable when they appear on older coins like the 1974 quarter, especially complete curved clips or double clips that show textbook minting mistakes. And collectors always pay more for dramatic examples that instantly catch the eye. And another category that makes the 1974 quarter so fascinating is the struck-through error, where a foreign object like cloth, wire, grease, metal shavings, or even pieces of another coin gets stuck between the die and the planchet, leaving strange textures, dents, or missing design parts that look unnatural but are 100% authentic mint errors. And struck-through mistakes from the 70s can be breathtakingly unique because each one is basically a one-of-a-kind accident that will never repeat, meaning collectors sometimes fight hard when such pieces appear in auctions. And this is exactly the type of coin that could push the value toward the unbelievable $33 million. Figure if the error is extreme, dramatic, and perfectly preserved. But we also need to talk about the possibility of transitional errors, because the 1970s were full of experimental metal compositions and leftover materials. And if a 1974 quarter was struck on a leftover silver-clad planchet, for example, that would instantly make it one of the rarest modern errors in history. And even the slightest hint of silver tone, unusual weight, or different electromagnetic signature could spark a frenzy among collectors. And that's not all, because die cracks, cuds, rim breaks, and other structural damage errors also exist on some 1974 quarters, creating dramatic raised lines, missing chunks, or thick blobs of metal connecting different parts of the design. And certain collectors specialize in these die damage errors because each one tells a story about what was happening inside the mint that day, whether the die was old, misaligned, damaged, or improperly maintained, in the right combination of a massive die break with strong detail can also push value into extreme territory, especially when combined with other errors. And that brings us to the condition factor, because even the rarest error loses value if it's heavily worn, scratched, bent, or damaged. But if a 1974 quarter with a wild, impossible error appears in near-perfect mint state condition with brilliant luster and sharp design details, that's when collectors open their wallets in ways that defy imagination. And that's how the value reaches the unbelievable $33 million level that people talk about. Because rarity plus condition plus dramatic visual impact equals a coin that is not just collectible, but legendary. And the mystery behind such a coin only adds to the excitement, because no two stories are the same. Every error carries its own weird history. And every collector wants to be the one who finds the next great treasure hidden in everyday change. And that's why I always tell my viewers here on the Nomis Hunter to never underestimate the power of checking your coins carefully, because something as ordinary as a 1974 quarter could be the very piece that changes your life, especially when it carries errors so rare, so dramatic, and so unexpected that experts still scratch their heads wondering how they even slipped out of the mint. And that is what makes the hunt exciting.